So before we start any presentation at Royal Roads University, it's very important for us to acknowledge the Indigenous land that we're on. So take a moment maybe to take a deep breath, connect your feet to the ground, and let's kind of take a moment just to acknowledge that we are on the traditional lands of the Cosapsan and Lagwagan families and ancestors, also known as the Sunhi and Esquimalt families. So it's with deep gratitude that we learn, play, work here on these lands where Indigenous and non-Indigenous people come together. If you know the Indigenous lands that you're joining us from today, I invite you to put that in the chat. You can let us know your name as well, where you're joining us from. We always like to learn who you are. And I hope everyone is in the good Zoom room. We're here to talk about the Graduate Certificate in Science and Policy of Climate Change and the Master of Arts and Master of Science in Environmental Practice. And with me today, I have Leslie. Do you want to say hi?
Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for being here. And let us know what your interest is. Is it in the climate program or the MEP, the Masters in Environmental Practice, and where you're from and what you're doing with your life?
Love that. And you're right, Leslie, we use all those acronyms at Royal Roads University. Yeah. So we talk about the GC, SP, CC, and then the MEP program. So we apologize if we use words you don't understand. You let us know and we'll do our best to explain. I'm just letting more people in.
Oh, good, Nancy. We have someone from Quebec.
Yay, bonjour. Yes. And as Leslie introduced herself, my name is Nancy Prévost-Maurice. I'm an education specialist here at Royal Roads, and I'm also a student in the Master of Climate Action Leadership. So when we talk about what does that look like to be a student and work full-time, we can chat about it. I know what we're going through. And before we get started with the program, quick agenda for today. We'll talk about Royal Roads University and the experience of being a student here, program-specific information. We'll talk about the amazing partnership we have with ECO Canada and the application process. And again, we welcome questions throughout the presentation. I see that we have Carla that joined us in the room. So Carla is with Enrollment Services. She will be able to pop super useful links for us throughout the presentation, so you can navigate the website and know where to find the information or who to connect to chat further after the session. And this program, super cool program because fully online, and I think this is where the world is leading. But a few pictures for you just to know who Royal Roads is. So we have the iconic Hatley Castle on the top left. We have the trails where I love to go walk, run, just enjoy 565 acres of lands at Royal Roads. At the bottom left, we can see the Esquimalt Lagoon. I love seeing students with some of other programs we have on campus. Sometimes they go study or do some testing around the lagoon, which is also a bird sanctuary. And at the bottom right, online learning. So we have been doing online learning for more than 25 years. This is important to mention that this is not something we pivot to like other institutions over the past years. It's really something we do since 1995. So instructor, professors such as Leslie, everyone at the school really know how to handle like that kind of online environment really well. And we have many tools for you and for us to use to make sure that your education is wonderful. And I'm sure you might be at that stage of like, oh, I want to go back to school. I'm not sure which school to pick. So why explore Royal Roads University? Of course, we have a castle, but we're more than a castle. We see life as a qualification. When we talk about the admission process, you will see that we really always look at who you are as a whole. So your past experiences, that can be work, education, volunteering, who you are now. And as Leslie mentioned, who do you want to become? So what's the future you want? So the full life is taken into account when we do admission here. Profs who know your name, I think we can testify that everybody at Royal Road, we get to know you. We have small cohort. Even if it's online, we create that kind of safe environment for you to build relationship with your cohort, your peers, and your instructors. So you won't be just a number, not sitting in a big hall with 200 people. You're really building connection with your class, and you keep those connections. Learning based on life. So we're really encouraged as students to bring what we see in the other world, so the real life problems that we encounter, and we bring those challenges into the classroom, I should say. So then you can discuss with your instructor and with your peers or how to tackle those problems, especially in environment, sustainability. There's so much to talk about. So it's not just the academic side, I would say. It's kind of that hands-on, leading the theory and the practice together. Connection for life. Many students, alumni we talk to, they are in touch even if they graduated 20 years ago. People stay in touch within like LinkedIn or other form of networking events. And it's wonderful because you meet how do we say that word? Like-minded people. So really the people in your cohort are most likely people like you who want to change the world, and then you can connect with them, and they're everywhere in the world, everywhere in Canada and everywhere in the world. We were built differently. As I mentioned, in 1995, I think that was quite innovative to have an institution that will do on-campus, blended or online programs, and we're very proud of it, to be all about innovation, entrepreneurship, and social innovation. And a quick slide here, because we just got a survey and the result of a survey. And I think those numbers talk by themselves, like how much our alumni, so people who take some of the programs we're talking today, and after a few months or a few years, reflect back and say like, oh, wow, yeah, I learned tons at Railroads, and I'm so happy I took that program, that degree to level up my education, my career. So that's a great slide here. And as I mentioned, we're all about innovation, entrepreneurship, and changing the world. So we're super proud of that Changemaker Campus Ashoka U accreditation, because we're only a few institutions in Canada and in the US. So in North America, only a few of us have that accreditation, and we're very proud of it. I invite you to maybe Google it after the session if you want to learn more about the Changemaker Campus we are. And here I'll pass it over to you, Leslie, to talk about the program. So we have a few slides about the masters and then a few slides about the GC.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Nancy. And I'd like to welcome Vance and Karina and Carla, our wonderful support team, who are here and will probably be answering some of your questions for you. I also would like to say something about our online education. It's very important to us that online teaching be very engaging and interactive with the students, so that we capture that cohort feeling. The students get to know each other, they get to know their professors, and we really work hard to make those online courses very engaging for the students. It's not like taking a correspondence course. But some of you know that already. I'd also like to have a good welcome to Sabrina and Olivier from Quebec, where Nancy hails from. And I'll get started. I don't usually do a preamble, do I, Nancy? But I just thought it was important today. So the Master of Arts and Master of Science in Environmental Practice are extremely flexible programs because they're actually designed to accommodate the schedules and demands of working professionals. So many people in these programs are already employed in the sector. And so it provides graduate education for environmental professionals seeking upgrading, or advanced credentials leading to a range of environmental leadership careers or career advancement. And I think the leadership careers is very important. We need all the leadership in environment that we can get. Our current problems, climate change, witnessed by the fact that Canada is burning up this summer, and loss of biodiversity. These are incredibly urgent environmental issues, and they need good, strong leadership. Thanks, Nancy. So these are fully online 30 credit programs. As I say, they're part-time. You can take one course or 3 courses a semester, just depending on how, if you're not working, it's often good to take more courses and get finished earlier, because if you're seeking employment, this is a good opportunity to do network development leading to your career. But the program is normally completed in 2 to 5 years. If you move really fast, you can do it in 2 years, or maybe just 2 years and a bit, depending on what you do your capstone course in. But you can also spin it out over 5 years. And some people spin it out over 7 years, but that's the limit. The program aligns with the Eco-Canada occupational standards for the environmental sector and prepares students for environmental certification, the environmental professional in training or the environmental professional certification. And sort of a bycatch of the program is that it promotes online skills and competencies, because you do so much work online and that work is very varied. And you use a lot of different tools, online tools, in your education. Thanks, Nancy. At the end, I referred to a capstone course that students will choose either a research paper or a practicum. The practicum is great for people who are not already working because they get hands-on experience in the sector. The research paper is very self-directed, so you might want to research an issue that you are very interested in and go into it in some depth. And another characteristic of the program is you can take up to 3 courses at the University of Denver. Also, it can include the graduate certificate in science and policy of climate change as part of the MEP program. We're going to be talking about that in a minute, but there's someone online here who's also interested in the regenerative sustainable development certificate, and that is also included in the MEP. So for those 2 graduate certificates, you can take the full graduate certificate as part of the Master's in Environmental Practice with no extra cost or no extra credits. And at the end, you get 2 credentials. You get the master's degree and the graduate certificate. So I think that's a really good deal. Thanks.
It is, thank you. And a question I often get, Leslie, is do students need to pick the research paper or the practicum when they apply, like at the beginning, or do they have a bit of time to think about it?
They have a bit of time, and you can't take them unless you've completed 21 credits. So by the time you've completed 21 credits, you have a good idea what you want to do. So we're very open, and that, again, it's flexible in that way. And, you know, the program is also flexible in that you can choose to really focus on an area of your interest. So if you're interested in waste, hazardous waste, if you're interested in climate, if you're interested in planning, you can choose your courses and you can choose to do your term papers on that interest. So you can really focus your interest in the program, another way in which it's very flexible. Okay.
Thank you. And I see, Leslie, in the chat, some people are asking, because we have so many wonderful environmental programs at Railroad. So some people are asking for the difference between one or the other. And I think this is where Carla and our team really come in, because enrollment services can really do a one-on-one with most of the prospects and talk you through or walk you through all the differences of the program. Some are on campus, some you need to come for residencies, or some are fully online. So that might be a good one for Carla to answer here.
Well, also, I am available to talk to anyone about the differences in these programs and what you want to do with your life in particular, and which program is more relevant to those interests. I can always help with that. So Miranda asked about volunteering. I know you're very busy, Miranda. I can only imagine. But you don't need to have volunteer experience to get into the program. You do need experience you need 2 years of experience to get in on standard admission criteria. That can include volunteer experience, but you don't need it. I hope that answers your question. And I did not see the one about, oh, somebody from Denmark, yay.
There's a question about, can someone from the US do their practicum in Canada? This one, I'm not sure. We can find the info.
Oh, yeah, that's an interesting question, because I guess I don't know the answer to that.
Every country has specific norms, right?
I know. And I don't know what the immigration status requirement might be, but
we'll make sure, to find that answer.
It's a course, so I can't imagine that it would be a problem. It might, Nancy, you know about this better than anyone. It might have issues about liability or
the risk assessment of the practicum and
whatever,
stuff like that. We'll double check and make sure to send a follow-up email, because we have, correct me if I'm wrong, but we have people from across the world in the programs, right?
Yeah. Oh, okay. So here I've got the question about which program, the environmental MEEC, Environmental Communication and Education Program, versus this one. That's a fairly easy thing to answer. People who are working in education in any capacity, either formal or informal, or people who are interested in communication, perhaps they work for an NGO or a government. That is a very hands-on program, and it has 2 residencies where you come to campus for 3 weeks at a time. Or is it 2 now, Nancy? I
believe there's one less. There's one residency with less weeks.
Whereas the Master's in Environmental Practice has no residency requirement. So you do it fully online. And it is more for people working in the environmental sector professionally. So working on environmental issues, working on environmental policy, not necessarily education. Although many people have done their practica or their research papers on educational topics. So, there's not a hard and fast rule about this. And I can certainly talk to you more about the differences.
Perfect. And I see that some of our folks in the chat are answering each other, so that's wonderful. And which one was that?
Nancy, the question about French. We are a dual language country.
We are, but we will need, I think we need every documents to be in English, but I can answer you, Olivier, in private about it. We have, again, everything is on the website, which services you can use.
I'm a little disappointed about that, Nancy.
Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know if I needed to translate my degree.
From a way back, I think they should be able to submit them in both languages.
I hope so. Let me think about it. That was just 2 years ago and I forgot. Because all my degrees were also in French. Thank you. And I know someone has a great question that is kind of our next topic about, can they ladder up with their grad certificate into the master? So I think we'll go there. And if you don't mind, Leslie, I can answer Megan. You're asking about, is it realistic to work full-time and do the program? And this is most likely what most people will do at Royal Road. So we are a university for working professionals. That was kind of the why we were created. So most people in your cohort will do. I love what Leslie said about, it's true, if you don't work and you have more time, then you go faster. But I know for myself, I'm ending my master now after 2.5 years, and I'm taking it one day at a time. And you have every course is 10 weeks long. So you can kind of manage your schedule around it. Of course, there's crunch time that you will spend weekends on assignments and readings, but it's really manageable. I think we say, Leslie, about 10 to 20 hours a week for the program. And sometimes it's 10, sometimes it's 20. It really depends of which project we're working on.
Yeah. I'd also like to address Beth's question. If she took the Science and Policy of Climate Change first, can she apply those credits? Yes, you can. You can use those credits to get advanced standing in the master's degree when you finally take the master's degree, which I think you will.
And that's what I love about this one. If we're not sure that we want to jump into a master program, then we start with the grad certificate and you level up. Yeah.
That's right.
Do you want to tell us about this one, Leslie?
Yes, I think I'd better move along. Right. The graduate certificate in Science and Policy of Climate Change. This is my passion. I've wanted to develop a climate change credential for a long time in various institutions that I've worked in, and finally succeeded this time. And I like to say that this is the most efficient way you can gain a credential and become a climate professional, because it's only 3 courses, but it's really the basics of climate change. It's everything you need to know. And you can branch out after this because there's always more to learn about climate change and its impacts. But the first course is the science of the causes and impacts of climate change. And the second course is policy and governance of climate change. And the third course is a practicum. Could you go back, please? Can you?
I'm trying to.
Oh. Yeah, I don't seem to have control.
I'm sorry, Leslie. Yeah, you can keep going. Here we go.
Okay, perfect. So it's 9 credits, and those are the 9 credits that count towards the master's degree also. But you can take it standalone, as Beth asked. It's entirely online. It can be part of the MEP or standalone. And the courses are also available as electives in all kinds of other programs as well. I've had the MBA students in the certificate who've completed the whole certificate as part of their MBA, which is really great. It's great to have it. Also, the person who is interested in education and communication, you can also take these courses as electives. I'm not sure how many you can take, but at least one. And ditto for MEM, the MA or MSc in Environment and Management. Okay, thanks, Nancy. We can move on now, maybe not quite so far, but okay, who is it for? Environmental professionals, again, with undergraduate degrees, you need an undergraduate degree to take it, who want to move into the rapidly expanding field of climate science and policy. So also for professionals in other fields who want to transition to climate careers. And I think this is possibly the largest group that take the certificate. I might be wrong about that, but people who really are worried about climate and climate change and who suddenly decide that they really want to learn more and become a climate professional. Those already working in the climate field, there are not really many credentials in the climate field. So if you're already working, but you want that academic credential, this is a good place to get that. And also, again, if you're aiming for professional certification. Also mid-career professionals. I have a lot of mid-career professionals in this program. It's only been going for 3 years, but there's a huge variety of people who take the program, and also graduates from other countries who may also not have credentials in climate. Okay. We're getting lots of questions, Nancy, so I'm getting nervous about wrapping this up. So the 3 courses are 614, Science and Impacts of Climate Change, 615, Climate Policy and Governance, and 616, which I call Climate Solutions. It's an experiential course where students work for an organization that is addressing climate change. And they learn about how they're addressing climate change, and they also help that organization develop their response to climate change.
Great. Will that 616, Leslie, be a team assignment or is it individual?
It's individual. It's really hard because we have people from all over the country and internationally for them to work as a team. So it tends to be, although I have nothing against them working as a team, it does tend to be individuals.
Great. And I must add, I just finished the 615 as part of my master. So when Leslie, when you mentioned about that, that's true. I should add on the slide the Climate Action Leadership Program. And I just love to be able to do my master with my cohort, but be able to jump in the SPCC 615, which was fantastic. And many things I didn't learn or like that complement my learning with people from all other programs, even from other institutions. So a lot of knowledge sharing and learning. That was fantastic. And I'll move us to the next one. Let's talk about Eco-Canada.
Okay, you go ahead. Okay,
Perfect.
we have a partner, sorry. One of the really distinguishing features about these programs is our partnership with Eco-Canada, which is the sector organization for the environmental field. And so they basically steward the workshop or the workforce in environment. They have a wonderful job board, I might say. So if you're looking for a job, go on the Eco-Canada site and find their job board. And they also do a lot of training. And as I've mentioned earlier, they certify environmental professionals. Did you want to do this, Nancy, or add anything?
No, that's fantastic. I think you have been working with Eco-Canada for many years.
Many years.
I even think that some members of their team are here with us today. So if you have specific
good.
questions, maybe.
That's excellent. That would be.
I love what you said. I think it's so important, right, that we stay connected with the industry. So we're learning a lot with ECO and from ECO as what are the needs and the skills, and then we do that.
Yeah, Nancy and I just went to one of their conferences, the Eco-Canada conferences, where they gave out impact awards to environmental professionals. And Nancy's organization got one of those.
Yeah.
I was going to say so. Oh, yeah, I like to say that Eco-Canada, the partnership with Eco-Canada, although they're not involved in the academic delivery, keep us real, keep us connected to jobs and careers in the industry or in the sector, not just an industry. Okay, ECO gathers statistics about people in the sector, and they do a lot of forecasting about the future of environmental work. And I always say that they're very conservative about that. I think that the future of environmental work is limitless in Canada and elsewhere. And so they have a figure here, job growth of 233,000 environmental job openings to 2029. I think that's a low figure. I think that this is a rapidly expanding area. And I don't think that my students in these environmental programs have any worries about getting jobs. Let's just put it that way. Okay, thanks, Nancy. Over to you, my dear.
Yeah, perfect. And then you can review maybe some questions. Maybe before I jump in, I know someone was saying that the stream of Master of Science is not thesis-based and it can be seen in academia as inferior. What would you say to that?
Oh, yeah, this is a very old assumption, and it's a very elitist, snobbish assumption, as far as I'm concerned. My students, many of my students go on for PhDs. And I used to worry that because they didn't have a thesis requirement, that would hold them back from getting into PhD programs. Well, I've learned that it hasn't. And very often they will submit their research paper that they do in the final capstone course to support their application to a PhD program. And they're very successful. And what the PhD programs love the fact that the students have a very broad knowledge of the field, but they also go into some depth in their final courses and even in all of their courses where they write papers on their areas of interest. You know, I understand if you want to do a thesis, if you're burning to do an investigation of an issue or a problem, I think that's just great. And the MEM program is wonderful, and it has a thesis component. These programs do not, and they have the advantage of that flexibility that I was talking about, and the fact that the students can focus in on a single issue or not. They can stay very broad with a broad knowledge of the field entirely. Most of my students are interested in doing, because they're professionals working in a single area. They do have a good focus.
I love that. I love we have options.
I probably haven't answered your question, but I've tried.
Thank you for that. And I think another question I see is, what is the mode of online class delivery?
Oh, yeah. So this varies, of course, because we encourage people to use all kinds of methods of online delivery. And in fact, the university has a lot of courses to help professors develop online courses in a very engaging, dynamic, and diverse way. So the online delivery is asynchronous. So you are never required to be in one place at a specific time. The professors sometimes have online meetings with students, but they're never mandatory. They're voluntary, and they are always recorded, and the recording is sent out to the whole class, so you can listen to it at your leisure. And that's one way of providing a diverse learning environment, which most of the professors do. Other than that, you know, there are all kinds of ways of imparting information, whether it's videos, whether it's papers in journals or books. We try not to have too many expensive textbooks because there's a lot of stuff online now that the students can use as their resources. Sorry, I'm going on and on about this, but it's a very big issue for us.
Thank you so much. And yeah, feel free to peek at the chat. There's a good question there. And after the presentation, we'll make sure to review and try to answer. Yeah, Carla is making her way there. Thank you, Carla, in the back.
I'm always worried that I'm going to miss a question. It's hard to do several things at once.
Yeah. And here I know
that's
something.
Nancy, on how to apply.
Thank you so much. Yeah, how to apply. I know that when we do those webinars, I get a lot of people, oh, what's the next step? How can I apply? So here we go together. And of course, you can always go to the website, royalroads.ca, and you have a how to apply section that will give you 10 steps to follow. So that's really what I did when I applied for my master's. I printed that little list and check boxes after boxes to do it. So I'll show you in a minute how that looks like, but the website is really designed to help you at every step that you take. And the key dates here, so we have the master we discuss twice a year. The next intake, September 5th, it's just around the corner. I know we were mentioning with Leslie, ideally, your submission, your application should be received before the deadline, and the deadline is by this Friday. And it's always, I like to kind of advise on, like, if you feel that you're ready and you're like, oh, absolutely, like all my documents are ready, I'm ready to do this, you can apply for like that intake coming up in a month. But I know working with enrollment services before, sometimes you need a few months to get all those documents together, wrap your head around, oh, I'm going back to school. I need to talk with my employer. I need to talk with my family. So that's the good thing with the program, is that you have one intake in September, one in January. So if this intake now is too fast, don't worry, submit your application still, and you can pick the January 2nd, 2024 intake. So I love that there's 2 intakes, so you have more options depending on what your life look like right now.
Nancy, can I just add that if you really want to go into the September intake, if you do your online application form and get that in before the 5th, you can submit your documents after the 5th. Not too long after the 5th, but you can take some time to submit those documents.
And I was just thinking of Olivier's question when you talk about your transcript in French. I just realized, for me at least, being away from school for a few years, I was like, oh, collecting all those documents were taking a little bit longer than I thought. But if, as I said, you have all those documents already, you're like, oh, good to go. And September is ready. And we have a beautiful cohort coming up too. We have great numbers for September. So there's already people in the program. We're very coming up for the program. Very grateful about that. And then the grad certificate, as we mentioned, if you're not sure if you want to jump in a master now, or if you already have a master maybe and you want to do that grad certificate, then it will start on January 8, 2024, and you must please apply by October 4th. And at Royal Roads, we like to do things differently. So you don't need to wait for that application deadline date. If you're ready today, you go on the website, you start, and you can already apply for most of the program of 2024. So we don't have those kind of fixed date. It's really kind of a rolling admission. So I really like that. And if you go online, so you will pay your fee of $131.39, and then you will see what we call My Admin, will show you all the documents you need to submit. And we now have a platform that you will upload your documents. So in the past, you needed to email everything. Now you can upload them. So we will ask all the official transcript from post-secondary institution you attended in the past. So if you have been to 2, 3 universities, we need those transcripts. And the transcript will need to come from your institution. So there's different way for different institutions to send those papers to us, but that cannot be just you sending them. That comes from an institution to our institution. Detailed resume. So you take some time to reflect on your actual resume. And this is where I think when I mentioned, please write down what you have done as volunteer experiences, education, and work, because we know that sometimes for myself, I didn't have a lot of work in environment, but I had tons of volunteering activities. So try to balance it out and really show our admission team what you have done and who you are. And on top of your resume, you will send a personal statement. So the statement of intent. And this is a really good one to really reflect on, again, what you have done in the past, where you're at, and where you want to go. And if, let's say, your last bachelor, your grades were not so good, please mention why in that letter. So it's really explaining where you're coming from and how you see that program working for you. So the admission team get a better understanding, they can use a holistic approach of seeing who you are. And I think, Leslie, sometimes you're involved in reviewing those profiles too. So those documents are very important. I would not recommend to use just general documents you produced, let's say, a year or 2 ago. Really take the time to look at the program outcomes and competencies and write down your documents. We also ask for 2 letters.
Oh, sorry, Nancy. I'm very interested in your motivation for taking the program and what you'll contribute to the other students in the program. So do use the letter as a way of strutting your stuff, telling me how great you are.
Yeah, because it's hard to see just with transcript. So we need more documents to see that. And again, when we click on the website, if you go under the Master of Arts or the Master of Science, for example, you will see the admission requirement, and we have some guidelines there. So again, take the time to review the website and those kind of steps to help you with the documents, or you connect with Leslie, or you connect with Carla. And we ask for 2 letters of reference. So what I've been doing and advising people on is you write down your personal statement, then send it to 2 people that you know. 1 professional, 1 academic is kind of ideal. If you don't have that, that's okay too. It can be your parent, like it can be your father or mom just saying like, oh yeah, that person is great. We need someone that is external. And then when they read your personal statement, they will understand why you want to join the program. And then they will be better equipped, I would say, to write the personal reference. And they will send those letters of reference directly to Royal Roads University. And we discussed a bit throughout the session about standard admission. So if you have already a 4-year undergrad degree with a GPA of B and at least 2 years of relevant work or volunteer experience, you're almost kind of sure in a way to get into the program, meaning this is more of the traditional way to come to Royal Road, the standard way. If you have the degree, so you have your 4-year undergrad, but you don't have the GPA, the admission team will most likely recommend to take the academic writing and critical thinking class that we offer quite a few times a year. You need to complete that course before getting into the program. And personally, I had to do it back 2-3 years ago, and I really needed it. And I was so grateful that I did it because I've been away for 15 years from my undergrad to my graduate degree. So that was very useful to relearn academic writing, critical thinking, and I can see the difference when I do assignments. And if you don't see yourself in that first slide, so flexible admission is what we're unique, like that's what we do differently. If you have 6 years of relevant work experience or a combo of education and experience, then you can still apply and get into the program. So again, beautiful variety in the cohort of people with traditional kind of school path and people having the experience on the other side. And for people without the undergrad degree, you will have to do that course that I talked about, the academic writing and critical thinking, that will become mandatory. And if English is not your primary language, you will have to review the English language requirements. So from my friends from Quebec, we need to just be able to prove that we work in an English environment, or even people from across the world. I say Quebec, but that can be elsewhere. Yeah, if we already work in an English environment, we can ask for some waivers there. But if your language is another language, we just need to make sure that you can follow the degree in another language. I wish we could do that program in French, Leslie, but that's another story.
When I first did the certificate in environmental practice, which is no longer available, it was available in French.
Was it? Wow.
So I'm very sad that it's not now.
I have to tell people in the audience that, Leslie, you're such a pioneer in many things. You're really making a difference at Royal Roads, and I'm very happy you're with us.
Thank you, Nancy.
And services available to you. So you're not yet a student. When you join Royal Road as a student, you get a bunch of services with student services. But as a prospect, you can still explore financial resources, because we know that going back to school, like the money involved is a huge component. So please go check this website. You can make an appointment with the person there just to walk through what are the grant available, external and internal loans as well. And as we keep telling you, the enrollment services, they're amazing. They just know so much about the programs. You can connect with them at learn.more@royalroads.ca. You can call them and they can narrow down your program option, and they can even connect you with a student or a graduate from the program if you have really specific questions. And here, I think, Leslie, you wanted us to have access to your email. So that's amazing.
So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to email me. I'll be happy to talk to you about the program and about its relevance to your specific interests. And I see Carla has put all kinds of application details up. Thank you very much, Carla. And I see
great.
Erin from Eco Canada is on the call too.
And I think, Leslie, let me just stop the recording and then we can continue with questions. Will that work?
Sure. Or you can keep recording.
Okay.
If people have questions, other people are bound to have the same question. So
if there's anyone, we can review the chat. If some of you want to chat through, you can ask to unmute. I can check here too.
Have we missed any questions in the chat?
I think the one that were quite particular when people tell us about what degree they have and what they want to do, that will be better to talk with Carla and the team, because we can't really know in advance, right? We can't know.
Sorry. Yeah. Olivier has a question for the research paper. Do we have to look for a supervisor? No. The instructor, which is me, for alternating with Dr. Chris Ling, is the supervisor, but often students will use an expert in their field, maybe somebody they work with or work for, to help them with the research paper. And then Lisa, regarding selecting between the different environmental programs, again, I'll reinforce what Nancy said about the admissions advisors. They're absolutely wonderful. And they do know the answers to a lot of these questions. And if they don't, they'll contact one of us, me or the leads of some of the other programs. But you can always write to me about this. I'm very familiar with all the environmental programs at Royal Roads. So don't hesitate.
And you make me think, Leslie, webinars like we do now, we have a bunch of webinars on every program. So if you want to browse the YouTube or the website, and you can just like skim a little bit around what we have been talking with other programs. And sometimes we bring graduates, sometimes we bring students in the presentation, so you can hear from them as well.
Okay, on-site courses. There are on-site courses. There are there are courses in each of the residencies. And if you are in the Masters of Environmental Practice and you want to take a course that's on campus, I would encourage that and use the credit for MEP. It depends whether or not the program that has the on-site course is allowing people other than those in the program to take the courses. I hope that answers your question. Study permit, I cannot advise on that, but
Carla would be able to point you in the right direction. Yeah.
I think you do need a study permit.
Okay, I don't see.
We'll definitely find that information for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone for staying with us the full 50 minutes. That was fantastic.
Yes. This is a great group with fantastic questions. Thank you very much. And good luck in your future, all of you.